How's it going, guys? Cheese here, Cheese on Everything. Took the long way in to Crown Land this time. Did a little bit of off-roading. Finally got some mud and dirt on the truck after the big tires. And we've come to this really nice site. It's a pretty small lake, but it looks pretty gorgeous. You can tell that a lot of people have come to this site before. There's a fire pit, nice seat. You got a table over here. So it's still pretty early in the season right now. It's end of April and the nights are still dropping below zero. So today we got the hot tent and a stove to keep us nice and warm. I'll show you that once we pitch it. The only thing I'm missing now is some wood for the hot stove. We're gonna need a bit of that tonight. And I did bring my -7 sleeping bag, so it should keep me pretty warm even without a fire. But we are definitely having a fire tonight. So if you're a bit hesitant on cold weather camping, I don't blame you, because you do need a lot of gear or specialty gear to winter camp. Everything is a lot more expensive and it could be a little bit daunting because of the cold, but this is probably the cheapest and the most comfortable way to winter camp, and that is with a hot tent. I got here the Lux Outdoor Megahorn 3. This is a nylon hot tent. There are canvas tents out there, but they're a lot more expensive. This tent comes in at $250 Canadian. When it's on sale, it's about 300 bucks regular price. A little bit harder to set up. You have to peg down a lot of spots, but it is a lot more comfortable than sleeping in a four-season tent that costs maybe up to $1,000. This site is a little bit slanted because it's pointed towards the water, but we do have a pretty nice flat spot right here. So this is where I'm going to pitch it. It does require a slightly big footprint because this is a 4-person tent, so it's about the size of this whole circle right here. So with the hot tent, the setup is a little bit different because there is going to be a stove inside, so you're going to have to decide where the stove's going to be before you pitch it. The stove pipe port is this silicone piece right here, and so you got to decide that first. And this tent also has 2 doors, one on each side. So after you figure out where the stove's gonna go, you also want to see where you're gonna open the tent. Also gotta make sure that there aren't any leaves that could possibly burn, because there are some potential sparks that could come up the chimney. Other than that, it's pretty much the same as all the other tents. There are 6 points for the actual tent to peg down, and there are 4 guy out lines to extend the interior of the tent. Tent is pretty much set up now. We just got to put the top on, and this is a pretty easy process as well. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. Put this on, and there are just clips right here that hook onto the tent. You could also do this from the inside. So on the first canvas door, there are 2 clips that you can tie up. I only needed to tie one, and it held the door up pretty well. And there's another one for the mesh inner. That's on the inside here. On the top here, there's also a mesh that cinches down on the pole, so there's no bugs that can get in here either. And then here is the stove jack with the silicone lining. I would say comfortably you can probably sleep 2 people with the stove in here, because the stove takes up a little bit of space and you can't really use the space around it, but definitely way more than enough space for just me. So I've set up one door to give me a really nice view in the morning. If it's not too cold tonight, I might just leave that open. There is also a mesh door here that protects me from the mosquitoes, although there aren't any bugs out here right now. And on the other side, this is the main door, which can give me really easy access to the truck. And this is where the stove is going to go, right here. We are losing light pretty quickly, so I'm going to have to hurry up with this because I still have to collect wood for the fire and the stove tonight. So in terms of the stove, which you could also get from Lux Gear Outdoor, this is the Wild Wild West 3LW. This is the small version. They also have a large one, but I want to keep the weight down. This is a titanium, fully titanium stove. It is a little bit difficult to set up, but if I'm not mistaken, this is the cheapest titanium stove you can get on the market at 300 bucks. And with titanium stoves, you got to remember to burn them in before you use them. I have used this stove a couple times now, as you can tell from the burn marks. The other thing is, with these stoves, the titanium is really, really sharp, especially the chimney. So I would suggest wearing gloves to put everything together. There are quite a lot of pieces to this. I know there are better constructed stoves out there. But as I said, this is one of the cheapest and also one of the lightest. It's kind of weird because usually light gear is really expensive. But Luckily, this is not. This stove builds from the bottom up. So these panels just kind of sit in the groove. So the pins coming out don't go into the slots. The slots just lock into each other. Just make sure all the panels are in the groove underneath here. And the same with the top. You see there's a groove all the way around. So just make sure that that is in there. And also the hole for the chimney is at the back. So that is opposite of the door. You also get these end nuts that lock all the posts in place. There is quite a bit of space here on these nuts. This is where you tighten the bottom wing nut and lift the whole stove back up and tighten up the gap. So you tighten everything down, this thing is as sturdy as a rock. And believe it or not, that isn't the hard part. The hard part is unraveling this chimney and wrapping it back up lengthwise. So the stove also comes with this coupler, which connects the stove to the stovepipe. And there are two attachments. This is the spark reducer, and the other one is the exhaust regulator. This controls how much heat goes out the stovepipe and how much wood you burn. With conjunction to how much you have this intake open, you can control the heat from here as well. And it comes with a nice lock to keep the door shut. And that's pretty much the stove. The last step is to just put it centered to the stovepipe hole and put it through silicone patch. All right, and now for the final step, just make sure the stovepipe is straight. And it is pretty straight, so there we go. Time to get some wood. So this being the first time coming to this site, I don't know the land that well, so we're gonna have to explore a little bit and see where we can find some dead trees. Another advantage of being up here so early, other than there being nobody up here, is the fact that you can find wood a lot easier because the snow in the wintertime has kind of broken off a lot of small branches. You can find them laying just all around the floor, like right here. These are great because they're dry and they're not rotten. You just pick all these up and it'll make great firewood. Ooh, we got a swamp over here. It's not good for mosquitoes. I remind myself not to come here in the summertime, but this site is going to be riddled with mosquitoes if that's the case. Wow, these branches are just breaking off from me picking them up. So dry. So it's getting pretty dark, as you can probably see. I think I got enough wood for tonight. Got two big piles here. And the wood stove doesn't use that much wood. I probably could use a little bit more wood for the fire, but that's okay. I'm not cooking on it. I'm just gonna use the stove to cook. So there's only one more thing I gotta do, and that is set up the bed. I brought the Alps Mountaineering cot so I can sleep off the ground for a little bit more comfortable sleep. And I also got the Nemo Tensor insulated. It's a 4.7 R value pad right here. I'm gonna test this thing out. Everyone's been raving about this, so I bought it to see what's all the fuss is about. A bunch of aluminum legs and two poles that stretches along the length of the cot. Pretty easy to put together. It requires a little bit of force, but it's not too bad. It comes with these legs that just clamps onto each other. But this is the actual cot. It's just a piece of material. There's two holes here where you put the poles through all the way, and that makes the sides of the bed. After you get the two poles in, you just have to snap these legs into these holes. This process is a little bit difficult because these legs are really strong. I find the best way is to pull the tarp and push the leg so you get double the force. Check this pad out. So it is slanted this way down. So I'm gonna put my head on that side. Really nice warm pad. And it even comes with a pump sack. So you just blow in here. And then push all the air in. This pump sack might give my flex tail gear pump a run for its money because it's pretty fast. And because you're not directly blowing air into the airbag, you don't get as much condensation inside. This is really quick. Only about, I think that was 4 pumps. So this pad is so long and wide, it completely covers my house mountaineering cot, which is perfect. For the camp pillow, I got the Wise Owl Snoozy. It's a pretty nice, fluffy, big memory foam pillow. And then for the sleeping pad, I have my trusty North Face Dolomite -7 bag. This thing has been with me for many years. It's a synthetic square bag. I don't like being restrictive, so I always use this one, and it can unzip all the way and turn into a blanket. So that is quite nice. Although I am probably going to use it as a square bag tonight because it is going to get cold. In order to get the fire started, I picked up these 2 cool little items from MEC. They're both from UCO. These are the survival hurricane matches that come in the little plastic protective case. And these are the strikeable fire starters. Can you see that? They last apparently about 7 minutes. It is sometimes a little bit hard if you want to start the fire inside the hot stove because the space is so tight in there. It comes in a triangular shape. It's got a striker with firework kind of material. It lights up pretty bright. Now that we got the fire going, it is warm and toasty in here. I actually had to strip down some layers. And with all the important stuff done, we can finally start cooking. Tonight we got some juicy filet mignon and a packet of mashed potatoes. I wish you guys can smell this right now because this smells amazing. I'm gonna cook my mashed potatoes, waiting for the water to boil, and I got a full meal. Well, that was a delicious dinner. Nice filet mignon and potatoes. Out here enjoying the wilderness. The reason why I came up here is because there is supposed to be one of the best viewings for the Milky Way. But yeah, it's one of the most gorgeous nights out here that I've ever had. There is not a single bit of wind. It is completely dead, which is really nice. It is not even that cold. They said it's supposed to be -2 or -3 degrees, but honestly, it feels like 15 right now. I'm gonna stay up for a little bit and see if I can get a nice time lapse for you guys. And I'll probably see you in the morning. Good morning. Had a great sleep last night. Well, when I say morning, it's actually 12 noon right now. Stayed up a bit late last night to see the Milky Way. Couldn't see it, but I saw a lot of stars. I think the Milky Way faces south and this lake faces east, so the trees were kind of in the way. But nonetheless, it was a great night. And it was very comfortable in here as well. The Nemo mat is definitely one of the most comfortable mats I've ever slept on. And also helps because of the cot. Lifted me off the ground. So it was not cold at all. Also, the stove kind of burnt out at around 3 o'clock. It is a little bit windy today, as you can tell from my tent. But the tent held up pretty well to the wind. Important to have a really good pitch so tent doesn't fall down in the middle of the night. And the other thing is it's more important to pitch this properly because the stovepipe's connected to the tent. So if your tent fell down, the pipe would also drag this thing down, which is a little bit dangerous. And we got some ATVs coming now too. Oh yeah, look at that view. In hindsight, I should have brought my kayak today. I didn't know it was going to be this nice this early in the season. Usually the water is still pretty cold. Well, I'm pretty sure the water here is still pretty cold, but usually out there it's a lot colder. But it's supposed to get up to 13 degrees today, which is amazing. So I'm gonna make some breakfast and I think it's gonna be bacon and eggs. Oh yeah, maple smoked bacon. It is delicious. With this stove, if you just want to keep warm, it does a good job. But if you want a flame that's hot enough to cook on, it takes a bit of work. You have to use a lot of little twigs instead of the big ones to keep that flame going, but works out in the end. I honestly couldn't have asked for a nicer day. It's like 15 degrees out right now. So you might be wondering why only my truck is here, because my buddies went home after the day of off-roading and I kind of stayed. And that's mainly because of the hot tent. It is still pretty cold out here without the proper equipment. With the hot tent, it makes it a lot more bearable. I was the only one with a -10 bag. And the Nemo tensor insulated actually really helped with keeping me warm. I was really toasty inside that bag. The tent as well was really comfortable. It was kind of windy last night, or actually this morning, and with it all pegged down like this, it was not moving at all. In regards to the stove, I had to top it up at around 3 a.m. I woke up, put more wood in, restarted the fire. You kind of have to know your way around the wood stove. You need to start off with the small sticks and keep a few big logs on top so that the logs keep burning overnight. But it lasts about 4 hours, I'd say. Overall, it's a really nice setup. Perfect for winter camping. If you don't want to drop $1,000 on a winter tent, this is a very good alternative. Although the tent and the stove would cost you around $600 Canadian. So it's not cheap still, but at least it is cheaper than a 4-season tent. So if you are looking to buy this tent, I'll put the link below. It's not an affiliate link or anything like that. It'll just help you find it a little bit easier. Going out for an afternoon hike. Gonna see if there's any other sites that we can camp at. It's always nice to scout out a couple more spots because a lot of people are starting to know this area. Looks like I found a lake we haven't camped at before. And I actually haven't even seen this lake, even though I've passed by here quite a few times. So let's check it out. I think beavers built this dam. Holy, look at this structure. It's keeping so much water out. And it spans all the way across the lake. It's crazy how these tiny little animals can build this kind of stuff. All right, back at camp. Gonna relax for a little bit, catch my breath, drink some water, and maybe we'll do a little bit of fly fishing because I did bring my fly rod. We got a nice open area here to swing that line. Luckily I am working pretty late tomorrow, 12 noon. So I think I'm gonna stay one more night and leave early in the morning. And I'm gonna try to do another night lapse tonight and see if I can catch a bit more stars in the Milky Way. But first, let's get the fishing gear out and try some flying. So I bought the Fenwick Eagle XP fly rod and some fly baits by Bash Stash off Amazon and some SF line. I'm gonna rig it all up. All right, so the difference with fly fishing is you kind of have to take a lot of line out and actually dip it in the water to give it some weight, because the weight is what gives your cast a bit further distance. Doesn't help that the wind is blowing towards me, because it's just blowing my bait right back at me. But it is flying. Fly fishing is more about rhythm than full sending. You kind of have to wait for the bait to come back before you cast it. I'd be amazed if I catch something right now. I love how the wind just dies down here at night during dusk, because look at that glass lake. It is just gorgeous here. So it's about that time, the sun's going down. Gotta get more wood for the night. I got that extra filet mignon I hadn't cooked yesterday, so I'm gonna make that tonight. I think I'm gonna fire grill it this time because it took way too long on the pan last night. There weren't any critters running around the site, so that was nice. Do remember to keep all your trash in a bag and preferably away from your tent so they're not trying to get inside while you're sleeping. But let's see if we can find some more wood. I don't know if you guys can hear this, but I don't know what those are. They were really loud last night. I had to wear earplugs to sleep. If you know what the sound of that is, let me know in the comments. I think they're bats, but I'm not 100% sure. I got a bed of embers here, and I'm going to be cooking the other filet mignon right on top. Just make sure you blow off the excess ash. Despite looking the way it does, if you haven't had a steak like this before, I definitely encourage you to try it. There is no better way of cooking a steak than to charbroil it right on the fire. All that smokiness gets infused into the meat and it just tastes amazing. It is getting a little bit late now, but I am still kind of hungry. So what I'm going to do is put out this fire and start the one in the tent so I got some warmth. It is starting to get cold as well. And maybe I'm going to cook an instant noodle, which I brought with me because that is a lot easier to do. And then call it a night because I have to wake up early tomorrow, drive back to Toronto, and go to work. So I'm going to turn in for the night. Didn't end up making that instant noodle. Left the GoPro outside to do that night lapse. Hopefully you'll catch something good. And the stove is burning nice and hot. And I'll see you in the morning. So I closed the vents on my stove and I woke up in the middle of the night and saw this happening. It's really cool. Looks like the fire's doing a dance. Good morning, guys. It's 6 a.m. Sun's not even up yet. But gonna start packing up and heading back. Had a critter last night come to visit. Had to scare it away with the car alarm. Found it a little bit hard to sleep. But yeah, it wasn't too big of a creature. I think it was probably like either a squirrel or a beaver or maybe a fox even. That's the kind of stuff he had to deal with out here. It's their land. Anyways, hope you guys liked this video. Hit the like button if you did and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.